Alright, I'll give it me.
All right. Hello, welcome to F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T podcast episode 161. aka I've been sharpening a knife in the bathroom on a brick I got from the garden and no one will fuck with me again. It's a futile fall showdown, breathing hard and stuttering since 2021. All 525 songs going head to head. We are in round 3. Last 125 songs. A work in progress to about 2026. Big love to all them would fall, including Danny and his re-annotations. Joined as always by the Pemberton Walker, Alistair. How does the world find you today?
That's all right. Been practicing with heavy breathing.
Very good. I'll take care of the stuttering. And Dan, the fall of Dankind, but not yet. The winter of our Dan content.
All right, yeah. Going watching Prolapse later. Went to watch a very good film last night called Continental 25. Feeling very cultural. This is probably the high point now.
It definitely. Prolapse being Alistair's favourite band, of course.
Is this I feel like this was a joke that I missed on a previous episode. You're not a Prolapse.
He ranted about how they pissed him off backstage at a gig many, many years ago, and I've been threatening to get in touch with the lad to get him on the show ever since, but I'm sure they'll sort it out if I do.
I've got friends in common with the lads, right. So we could make that happen.
Mick the guy, right? They get the
Mick. Well, there's Glaswegian Mick and there's other Mick.
Oh, 2 Micks, very good. We'll get them all on. We can all make up for whatever went down all those decades ago. Bygones must be. And thankfully joined by our resident PKD expert, Palemr Eldrich. Palemr, how are you today?
Fine, thanks. I'm fine. Thank you for referring to me as an expert. That's not happened before.
It's all relative. None of us know anything about PKD.
It is.
But I know you've been doing a little bit of research in the archives, and because last time, as we mentioned off camera, we've talked about things like the aphid, which have a very specific. Is the aphid? Is it a Scanner Darkly basically rewritten?
Yeah, it's the bits from Scanner Darkly about where he talks about picking insects off the floor and all that kind of thing. Yeah. So he's obviously Smith had obviously read it, you know.
Yeah. Rewritten as a dance hit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what else did you
What else did we get? I thought A New Face in Hell reads a bit like a Philip K. Dick short story, and in fact, quite a few of the songs, you know, you could potentially say they sound like they come from a PKD short story. But then you know he's M.R. James and H.P. Lovecraft, you know, he's mixing it all up.
Yeah, strangely enough, as always is the case with these songs, like all three, Dick doesn't pop up, but Lovecraft it pops up a couple of times tonight, and so does James and Macken, of course. But yeah.
I mean, there's Wings. I mean, you mentioned in a message a week or so ago about Wings, which is the Kicker Conspiracy B-side. I ended up in the 1860s. I've been there for 125 years. A small alteration of the past can turn time into space. I mean, Dick was always on about alternative realities, and he thought he lived in one. At least one, and he reckoned he met people that had moved from one timeline to this present one, and all that kind of thing. So there's
like that. Quite innocuous changes. Was there one? I think Phil was talking about it where you woke up one morning, the light switch had moved from one side of the room to the other, and that was kind of how you knew.
He walked into the bathroom early in the morning or later. He was tired, and he groped for the switch from the ceiling, and it was a switch on the wall, and he swore that the bathroom switch had always been a pull switch from the ceiling. So yeah, it's things like that. I mean, he also thought his radio came on in the middle of the night and started broadcasting weird messages to him, and he couldn't get it to stop. No matter how he tuned it, it kept on broadcasting these messages. He pulled the plug out of the wall and it carried on broadcasting these messages. I mean, he was taking quite a lot of speed. Speed was his drug of choice. So, you know, you've got to take all that with a pinch of speed. I mean, a pinch of salt. But, but yeah, which is another, you know, similarity with Smith, of course.
Yeah. And you mentioned the kind of stability of PKD generally was able to live a relatively stable life only when he had a partner who was there for him, like Mez in many ways.
I've not, I'm not kind of fleshed this out in any great detail, so hence me not being able to say I'm an expert. But I've just noticed kind of the similarity that watching the F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T live over several years and iterations, it seemed they were at their best when Smith was happy, and Smith seemed to be happiest to me when he was with somebody who he just met and was in love with, and they managed to keep him on a level which meant the music and things were better. And
Elaine particularly, of course, because that lasted for a good chunk of time.
Yeah. I mean, Elaine's brilliant. You wouldn't mess with her, I tell you now. Blimey. Yeah. But no, lovely person. And Dick's life was like that. He was married 5 times, and his third wife insisted that he work 9 to 5 as a writer, and she made him commute to a shack at the opposite side of the small town they were living in, do his writing there, and then come back at 5 like all the other daddies did. So he had a proper job in inverted commas.
Okay.
He was still taking loads of speed, still writing too much, and it was that period in which he wrote the Palemr Eldrich novel. Apparently wrote it in a week with no sleep, and when he finished it, he stood up and just collapsed and slept for 3 days. So obviously that 9 to 5 thing worked.
Yes, definitely. All right, well, maybe we can drop in a few more bits and bobs throughout, but there's definitely I like the idea of the short tail, the twist in the tail. That was really definitely a thing in the early Fall stuff that Smith lent on, whether it was Lovecraft or elements of Dick or M.R. James's.
A Figure Walks. That one could be any of the writers, couldn't it? Really,
absolutely. That came up a few times. We talked to Graham Duff last week, who wrote The Otherwise with Mark, and that so it was a nice dip into kind of the horror elements of the Fall. But anyway, let's get on with the showdowns tonight. So we have An Older Lover versus Fall Sound. I Feel Voxish against Leave the Capitol, and a Wise Old Man against the Acute. So some easier than others, some challenges, but let's have a gander at the first two.
Get tired of her.
there's an irony that cannot have escaped Smith that he did a song called Fall Sound, which is supposedly a parody of Manchester bands, which is clearly ripping off a Joy Division song in the most obvious way possible. Dan, coming to you first. Older Lover and Fall Sound, what are your thoughts?
An Older Lover, etc.
Etc., yes.
I'll have you know. Thank you. Yes, let's just remind ourselves how they got here. So, An Older Lover, etc. beat Littlest Rebel and Put a Block, so feels about right. And Fall Sound beat Assume and Trust in Me, which sounds like a kind of a late White House lyric. Also, fair enough. God, yeah, these are. I really like An Older Lover. It speaks to me as the power of subtracting elements from songs and how that can be like a really great creative act, just removing a strict rhythm track or removing a rhythm guitar line, and then you just get this very lovely spectral oddness that they're very good at creating. It sounds a bit like Dragnet era as well, like kind of gone. I don't know what the genesis of this is. I'd like to talk a bit more about Fall Sound because I really don't like it. And it's interesting because I think I've defended Reformation quite a bit on this show as an album, and I understand the kind of the necessary steps that they were taking as a bit of a fuck you to all the English group or English members they'd had or British members who were lazy and want more money. And I've just been reading Simon Spunky Size book, so that's very much on my mind right now as well. And I'd never really clocked the 24 hours thing. It doesn't. I mean, it's the same. It's clearly the same chords and the same key, but it doesn't sound anything like it. And like to me, like whilst you made the point that it's having a go at Manchester groups and ripping stuff off, this is kind of the song that I would, and I'm going to get put my academic tin hat on right now. This is kind of like the reification of the late fall period. It's kind of like they plant their flag in the sand and they announce that what they always were was a sweaty pub garage band, which, as I've said before, is just my least favourite version of the Fall. And it's an idea that they keep returning to over and over and over and over again for the remainder of their time, and I cannot stand it. It's just like Mez's performance like raises this above Drek, but I find this nigh on unlistenable and like want to turn it off like 2 minutes in, whereas I could go for another 20 minutes of them just like thwacking away at An Older Lover. This is a very straightforward, easy one. I really, really don't like Fall Sound. It's kind of like at the nub of what I really don't like about post Ball Heads Roll stuff.
I think I muddled most of it. For me, it is just that it is very generic. And once I clocked that Joy Division thing, and I listened to, I couldn't remember which song it was, so I listened to like both albums before I realized, it's 24 hours. And then I immediately on Annotated Fall, when I read it, the very first thing is like somebody said this is cribbed from 24 hours. But Palemr, what do these two do for you? What's your relative thoughts on their merits?
I'll carry on with the hatred for Fall Sound. I think he's taking the piss out of everybody, isn't he? He's taking the piss out of his own band. He's taking the piss out of us as listeners. He's taking the piss. He's taking the piss out of himself, which I don't normally associate Smith with self piss takes, but I mean, let's have a look at some of these lines. No laptop wankers over ground with Fall Sound. So some of the best Fall music was made by laptop wankers.
Absolutely.
I mean, The Unutterable has been put out on record, hasn't it, recently? And
that's great. It's 25. Is it 25 years? It's just
something like that.
Up, yeah.
Yeah, and the guitars need more Fall Sound. No 80s reprobates. It's
a business line, not a chat line.
Yeah, I know. Oh man. Yeah. And you've just split up with your long-legged rap chick. I mean, he's a classic old man shouting at clouds. But absolutely. I'm just left with the idea. He's taking the piss out of everybody, and musically, it's like he's become his own tribute act, which is dreadful. Which is the worst thing you could say about the Fall ever, is that they become their own tribute act.
It's one of the few songs that is self-referential and looking back, and it's all the worse for it. And other than, like Dan says, Mez steps up and he's decent on it, and he's got some good lines. But other than that, now, Dan?
Well, I mean, this is kind of a problem or a feature, if you like, of the Reformation album, because like there are some cadences in his vocal here that are exactly the same as cadences on Reformation, the title track, and that's also self-referential and a rip-off of a kind of a proper post-punk song. But that's great in my view, and this is, I think, for me, this boils down to the music rather than the look back or how piss-takey he is. I mean, he's always piss-takey in my view. So
yeah. Palmer, anything else on that? Older Lover, how do they stack up?
Older Lover. I mean, I love all of Slate anyway, so I'm kind of biased. But you know, the science fiction-y bit, Dr. Annabelle Lies, where he sounds like, you know, he's a Doctor Who Dalek or something.
Yeah.
Who's Dr. Annabelle?
It's not clear. There's some references that it might be Alan Wise, the promoter, or it might refer to a generic like problem, like page in a magazine. But it's not clear. Nor is it clear what French fries spread on her face on the future autoclitic enzyme sun.
Yeah. I mean, Dick had the character Dr. Smile that was a robotic psychiatrist in a suitcase. I'm not suggesting that, you know, that is any connection.
As valid as any of the others that have popped up.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of him changing, you know, the name of an actual person because I mean, you know, the Beatles did that. Well, loads of people have done that, haven't they? To kind of get it. No, I'm afraid, like Dan, I could happily listen to Older Lover continuing on and not fall sound at all.
Yes, fair enough. So Snur and Stu have chipped in as always. So Stu says a sinuous, lean, and really weird Older Lover. Somehow brutally mean sounding too, but it's great. So I'll try not to think about it too much. Doesn't really sound like anything else they did. The drums sound totally weird and somehow clipped, and the intervention of the tape sections are alienating in a way they usually avoid or at least skirt around. I finished listening to it and then just skipped right back to the beginning for another go. And what higher praise is there than that? Whilst grotesque was probably a lyrical high point, this always felt like the more major sonic step forward, says the Snur, signposting very clearly the hex of things to come, and finally finding a way for the eerie guitars and upbeat bass hooks to sit together and carve out something utterly unique. Very well said there. Oh, we have a chat coming in from the internet. From something I found, the last line is confoundingly enigmatic. The future autolytic enzyme sun. I know autolytic enzyme refers to self-digestion, but should sun be that great British red top, the sun? I only ask because the doctor's face has French fries on it, suggesting the paper/magazine she's in is being used to wrap chips in traditional style. Yeah. Very interesting take.
Chips in newspaper.
Chips in newspaper, and that's why she's got ketchup all over her face. I did see that, but I also thought you don't wrap chips in magazines. But but you said the sun is what they're referring to there, the rag.
Yeah.
You know, chips are too good for it.
Yes. Yeah.
Alistair, what do you make of these two tunes?
Well, I love Older Lover. It's a great tune. Like we mentioned before, Slates, Can't Fault It. But there's a few little bits in it that I do like, you know, that still entertain me now. You know, you've got the cheeky little fade in at the beginning. That's nice. You got the mocking vocal delivery and the lyrical content, and you got the K. Carroll kind of thing going on. And yeah, the version of this on part of American therein is beautiful. So they must have been playing it a lot on that tour, and that's the one where she got ditched, isn't it? So I reckon there's quite a bit of spite in that version of it. But
she ditched them. I think she was the one who had enough of them, right?
Yeah, I think you might be right there, Brendan.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's that tour or the one after, but yeah, she definitely wasn't pleased. I don't think, by all accounts.
An example of one of the first examples of the kind of washing your dirty laundry in public songs, which became a lot more popular later on. And it works, you know. Not very pleasant, but it works. But yeah, I like the way you've got the kind of nice, nasty guitar riff, where it's like, you know, that the higher pitched stuff's all quite, it's pleasant, but when it kind of like gets into the deeper sort of tones, it does turn. It gives it that nasty sound, and with the fucked up production, that's nice. Flat drum sound. There's hardly any cymbals in it. It's interesting, and it's all these little things, these little nuances that keep it fresh all those years on.
Oh yeah, it's almost acoustic. It's basically acoustic because obviously not because it's electric instruments, because everything's just so muted and turned down. Those cardboard box kind of drums, it's breaking all the cardinal rules. Verses blend into choruses. What were you going to say?
Yeah, it shouldn't work, but it does.
No. Palemr, did you have something to add there? No.
Only that with Alistair mentioning K, I've recently finally got around to reading The Fallen.
Oh yeah.
The book about all the ex-members of The Fallen.
Yeah.
And once again, strong woman in his life.
Yeah, arguably, very influential in those first few years of sorting out gigs and organising things. There's that great little clip where she's on the phone shouting at someone about, some booking or something. So yeah, she was definitely very important.
Yeah,
One thing
definitely.
I was thinking about the Fall women this week, and I was thinking I along the similar lines. I was thinking like, it's not just Mark was happier, like often the band was happier, and they were kind of tending to be getting paid more, things were being a bit settled. But Kay is one of the few that's from the Marquis Smith School of Account, and so it's kind of like very, very much on his side at a financial level as well. Whereas like the others, like I felt like it was a much more stable and happier and prosperous time when like Eleni and Bricks were about.
Yeah, Bricks less so because it was up and down, but there were definitely periods. But Eleni, absolutely. What was interesting is that Una asked a few weeks ago on Facebook. I don't know if you saw this, anyone, but she asked for a list of women involved in the Fall, and I jumped in, and a few other people had done it and put together a list. And yeah, there's about 25 people there that had, whether it was Julia on keys and she did her first stint, or whether it was maybe people who only came in for a little bit here and there. Obviously, Sister drew some of the covers and stuff. But yeah, that kind of that influence, especially of Bricks, and even more so Eleni and Kay, really, really important to the Fall and Fall sound.
Did you have the girl who wrote the lyrics on Fallhead's Roll?
The work experience
kid
woman?
Yeah.
I don't think we got her. No, I forgot about
Erasure.
about her. Yes.
Child erasure.
For me, with the it's interesting that Alistair says the fade in on Older Lover, because he's definitely not a fan of the fade out, but the fade in. What about that, Al? Why the fade in is acceptable?
It's not something that's widely used, is it? It shows that it's part of the studio process.
Yeah, it's cool actually how it is.
It would have had a different start to it. There'd be a bit that's missing.
Yeah, no, it's a good choice.
Yeah,
I always forget. And it's about 20 seconds in before I realise that it's fading in.
Fall sounds?
For Fall sound for me, I've sort of said, it's just, it's just falls flat. It's just very, very generic, and it's somewhat like we've quoted some of.
It needs something stuck in there. I don't know if it's like a crazy screeching Gibbon or Little Frank keyboards or something like that. But it needs something just to pep it up a little bit, doesn't it? But when you was mentioning the 24 hours thing, I don't think the riff sounds like it. What it is, it's the bass sound, it's the chorus effect that Hooky uses quite a bit.
Yeah, it's just very similar to the riff at times. Not that that's ever stopped us. If the song was great, we'd be barely mentioning it. It's only because it's like you cribbed something and you certainly didn't make it better. The music is
It's like he's sorry, mate. It's like he's mixed 24 hours with transmission.
The whole thing is, and that's why he says, this is from Renegade, where he says you can hear it on Reformation. There's a lot more going on. You think it was intended as a parody of Manchester groups, but turned remarkably into a piece of solid music. Strongly disagree. But what does Stuart and Snur think? Well, Stu says slight kraut whiff Oh no, the Snow says slight kraut with irritating reverential lyrics. All in all, perfectly fine for another band who don't know any better. An older lover, it ain't. More of an infantile fling. He's on fire, isn't he, Snow, today? He's pulling at the stops. Stu says, decent riff, dodgy sound, zero ideas, not good at all. Alrighty. Snur got me fearing for me job, says the unknown internet commenter, who may or may not be Dan. Telling you, Dan, he's on the sidelines. He's warming up. It's only a matter of time before one of us gets subbed out. But we've had a good run. All right, it's time for us to take a vote. So, Alistair, which way are you going?
Older Lover, etc.
Easy, innit? Easy.
Ain't it?
Before I get the rest, let's have a bit of a listen to the Live in America one. I think I've got a feeling we've played it before, but it is a great version. Let's have a listen.
Yeah, just love the guitar sound. Looks like you're enjoying it, Brendan. Nobody else is.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
You soon get tired of her.
Is it slower, or am I just imagining things?
That sounded slow.
Quite a lot slower, isn't it? I was checking the speed, but I think that's the normal speed they played at, which is it. Interesting. Yes. All right. So Palemr, which way are you leaning?
Older Lover for me too. We deserve better than Full Sound.
Absolutely. Dan, it's easy days, isn't it?
An Older Lover 3, Fall Sound -3.
-3, negative points. Stuart, an Older Lover 3, Fall Sound 0. So that suggests that he doesn't love an Older Lover, although he clearly does, but maybe he didn't want to embarrass Fall Sound anymore than it's already being shown up. I am also clearly going for Older Lover. It's a rout, just as we knew it would be. Somehow Fall Sound managed to squeak into round 3, but it's going no further. But now this is a big one. This is definitely a more challenging showdown. We have Leave the Capitol against I Feel Voxish. Ooh, lottery tickets.
Ooh, feeling lucky, bro.
Pictures of white frock girls and music teachers. That's clean. Water's poisons for the system, and you know in your brain. Leave the Capitol! Accept this Roman shell. And you know you must leave the Capitol. Good, pound. I did that. I did that. I did that. I did that. I did that.
Brilliant. Palemr, going to come to you first. We got Voxish against Leave the Capitol.
Well, I mean, this is most unfair, but this is what the podcast is all about. These kind of, it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
And this, I think, it's very, very difficult, very difficult. I mean, it's not an unreasonable offer has entered my own personal day-to-day vocabulary. I only realise this. Using that as a response at the correct time to people who've got no idea, what it's from. But no, it's. I love them both. It's going to be very hard. It's going to be like casting out a child.
We have to do it. We have to put him in the garden.
I know. I mean, he's put him in the garden. I mean, Leave the Capitol. The version on the live slate is fantastic. I mean, fantastic, and it's a fantastic sign. I exit this Roman shell again. It's entered day-to-day vocabulary, and musically, they're both top-notch full songs. I can't say any more than that, really.
There's a suggestion. No one brought up Dick per se, but the suggestion that would leave the Capitol something about the psychogeography of the place, and looking back via whether it's Macken. Particularly, obviously, there's direct references, right? But this idea of the magical on your doorstep. There's something very deep about Leave the Capitol that it reveals with each new listen, which is his thing about alternate timeline with Dick was he thought he was a reincarnated reincarnated Christian who was persecuted during the time of the Romans by the Romans. Okay.
So I don't know how much of that factored into the Capitol, or indeed the Roman total character.
Yeah. There's something very well, we looked at again with the otherwise and talking about the Jacobeans, time displaced Jacobean fighters that he also refers to in NWRA, and so this is that idea. All of those ideas are very much on his mind when he's writing this era of songs, for sure. Yes. I
mean, it's interesting you say that kind of that Roman link. I mean, I Live with Cancer Death Wife. Again, it's mentioning the women in his life as well.
Yeah,
which is something that Dick did a lot of, and he was also repeatedly accused of not being able to write believable, decent female characters.
Right.
The women in his fiction, there were other writers like Ursula K. Le Guin. They would say that you can't write women. You don't know how to write female character, which he didn't agree with, but I certainly do, because his Pulp Fiction background meant that the characters, both male and female, were very stereotypical. So there's that connection as well. I'm rambling a bit now, so
that's good.
Somebody else.
Please. We love the ramble, but I think that line about the wife possibly refers to Macken's wife who did die, and so it's there's something going on there, and it's mostly Macken, but there's bits of everybody else in there. But Alistair, what about these two for you?
Love them both. Yeah, it is going to be a very difficult decision, but I think one of them just edges it for me. I feel Voxish, cracking groove on it, with that bass line, the noise with the guitar over the top, the mad little fill that keeps on getting chucked in at an odd time, which really works. It's one of those things it shouldn't do, but it really does. But yeah, there's loads of nice guitar and keyboard abuse going on to that groove, and it's kind of gets a bit dark sounding at times, I think. And there's bits where Mark Smith just drops out and just gives the band space to do what they fucking well want, they kick its face off, don't they? Leave the Capitol. I think we've said this before. This is kind of like one of those, which is like a template for lo-fi.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the future, it's for me, it's really well written. The chorus has that kind of punky feel to it. But the verses have some. I think it's with the guitar reminds me a bit of Perubu. But there's some abrasive sort of vocal delivery that's good. I noticed the Welsh caravan bit, because I think that's a John Peel kind of reference.
Might be, yeah.
Yeah, I think he had a program called Cat's Caravan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, the disharmonica with Laurie Adult, fantastic. The guitar kind of reminds me of Stereo Lab at times when you're getting into that groove, but there is a groove to it again, which is a completely different kind of groove to I Feel Voxish. But I think the instruments are working really intelligently together and bouncing off each other. Really like it.
Yeah, I basically said that I Feel Voxish is like perfect post-punk, and Leave the Capital is essentially perfect, like early indie C86 kind of style. They've absolutely nailed it in these two songs. I do have a favorite, but that's just purely down to my taste. So you can probably guess which one I like more. But like, who does that? Like in I Feel Voxish, where it comes in, there's an intro. The verse is one line. Then there's a drum fill, and then it goes into the chorus. It's like, that's absolute madness as a structure. It's like, I've never heard a song that is anything like that before. Just, and it took me many, many listens of me thinking it was quite a complex kind of like song until I realized that it actually barely changes at all for the entire time. And yeah, I love those discordant, snoopy keys. Stu says that I Feel Voxish, RIP. I'll pour one out for a great track in advance because I think it's probably a done deal. This isn't a career high in the way other PBL tracks are, but it's sublime nonetheless. Somewhat propulsive but also laid back, simultaneously relentless in basic form but decorated in a million ways so it sounds like it's constantly shifting. That bass line, obscure but really evocative lyrics and delivery, it's sort of like some other stuff from this period. I can't put my finger on. What a classic. Well, Snur says, by far the weakest track of possibly my favourite album. Saying that, the descending guitar riff and the willfully misplaced drum fills are really very nice. I just don't like the refrain. My clothier for lyrics always assumed you were saying Arthur with a faintly Cockney accent. Feel Vox crisp, the French get the spikes the French get. The spikes he left in the bathroom, and I never heard from him again. It was not an unreasonable offer, but it made me hungry for victuals I could not raise nor buy. I'm a reasonable man. Get off my back is also what comes to mind as soon as I say it was not an unreasonable offer. DB, where do you stand on these things?
God, I think we've got perils of having too much to say here, so let's just calm my bodily temperature down by saying how they got here. I Feel Voxish beat Oswald Defence Lawyer and Ludgang, which I love Ludgang, but I think I would have gone for Voxish there. Leave the Capital beat Detective Instinct and Vixen. Fair enough. Yeah. So it's interesting because both of these songs have very literary references in. We have I Feel Voxish, which has the remind me, I've not got annotated file in front of me.
Lovecraft. It's a direct
Lovecraft. Yes, absolutely. It's a direct reference to Lovecraft. Yeah. Leave the Capital has the kind of Mac, but both of them, in terms of like the way they are presented, feel like other authors that have maybe not come up, or maybe have, and I've just been unaware. I Feel Voxish, to me, the lyric, particularly the title, feels very Burgess. I don't know. I just feel like kind of a bit of a Burgess thing. Leave the Capital has like the form of the lyric where we kind of like begin in a form of social realism and then descend into a kind of a frieze or tableau vivant of a kind of like mad underworld. Feels kind of Herman Hesse to me, this kind of very Steppenwolfy kind of idea. That's all I'm going to say on the lyric because it's not really my forte. Musically, so much to say as well. Voxish, I think might be like the best recording of any of their songs. Just like so deep and lovely, but not overblown, and like lots of textures going on constantly. And you're absolutely right. The structure is mad, but it's also could have been knocked out in an hour and just be a very instinctive thing. I think the one thing that I would possibly say slightly as a negative against Voxish is that it maybe doesn't go anywhere with that, and that can be fine. Like it's okay for a band to find a groove and just inhabit it thoroughly as they do. But when you're up against Leave the Capital, which isn't recorded quote as well in terms of professional standards, it's rough, but it's perfect. It is a perfect recording. Like you couldn't take this into sort of like New York City Power Station and make this a better tune. This is just so incredibly well done. Like the interplay between everything is just absolutely nailed on. The kind of, I love the vocal textures, like where he does the. Is he saying I did? Is he doing like a kind of a Scott Glaswegian?
It looks like it. That's what people are saying. Yeah.
I always heard it as I've been there, but I mean, either way, I love that kind of the front to back vocal quality. The slight, it's not tinny, is it? It's just, yeah, it's like, you're right, absolutely right with what you said. That early indie pop, indie rockness of it.
Especially that kind of little descending line that comes in after about 10, 15 seconds, which is, I think we said it each time it's popped up, it's just very unique in the Falls catalogue, that it's so light. And interestingly, that this comes from, both songs today come from Slates, which is known for being heavy and rough, but they're both actually really, Older Lover and this, gentle and wonky in a weird way.
I think I think what I will leave the Capitol with saying is this. I recently made a 10-track intro to the Fall for a friend who'd never heard them, and this was number one.
Okay.
This was the first track on it.
Yeah.
Take that how you wish.
I mean, again, what's interesting is that there's a suggestion that there's two basses on Voxish, that Carl Burns is playing bass on it as well. And Smith might have just, I think he was just, because I feel Voxish means something like I want to sing, or I feel like singing, or something like that. Right? So apparently he just said it came just out of kind of that idea of wanting to sing a melody and see, which is what happens if, like, you know, all those song poems where they've got really odd meters and things. So, and the musicians, these highly trained musicians, have to just try and make it fit and work. And interestingly enough, AI Suno music, if you give it some really weird lyrics, it will do some very interesting, unusual things to try and make it fit.
Have you seen Off the Charts, the song poem documentary?
Yes, I think so.
I love that. That's really great. I don't quite get that mental image, but yeah.
Well,
also, I thought the guitar for a long time on Voxish was a violin. The kind of it's just played, I guess, with a portamento kind of
something like that. Yeah. It's interesting also to say about whether this is the perfect recording of something like the Capitol, because I've been a lot of time with Guided by Voices over the last little while. I don't know why I've fallen back into them so much, but they were basically, after Alien Lanes came out, Warner Brothers wanted to sign them and re-record the whole of Alien Lanes in the studio, which they basically said no to, and then went to Matador, and then just carried on until eventually they did their albums with Rick Ocasek and kind of proved to themselves that they didn't need to do that. So that idea of the Leave the Capitol, it's just the interlocking guitars and bass. It's not what I come to the Fall for. It isn't the Fall sound, but it's a Fall sound, and it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, that's probably a controversial statement, but it's a Fall sound. It's not the one we imagine necessarily when we think about something like Hit Priest or whatever.
Or False Sound.
Or False Sound. It reminded me a lot of something like Life Without Buildings, actually. That was the band that came to mind. Very interlocking, repetitive kind of things. Smith's bringing his A game, but so are all the musicians. And just the end stuff where he invents Stuart Lee as he does the Great God Pan routine for like 5 minutes at the end. And the harmonica squeals, as Alistair said. So Stu says this perfectly polished but not polished pop masterpiece, a honed knife. I can't really understand why, but I'm convinced that this is one of the finest musical documents ever created. Every gesture and turn in the music feels so tightly integrated and wound up, it gives the impression of inevitability. It couldn't be anything other than what it is. And Snur says, somehow during this period, even a straight-ahead pop song sounds weirdly subversive. It really benefits from the out-of-tune rhythm guitar, and Smith's Great God Pan section is a joy, like listening to a rubbish impressionist on the 80s Saturday night TV. Did you see that conspiracy theory that was going around that Ray J, what's his name? It wasn't Ray J.
Roy J.
Roy J was invented by was a conspiracy, and he never existed. But I
got quite invested in it because a lot of the stuff that the pro AI nonsense on 4chan was based on some stuff that I'd been writing on another comedy thread.
Okay.
And so I think they've kind of picked this up and kind of flown against it. I got really irate with the whole 4chan world there. Not for the first time either.
Not for the first time, I imagine, but it's an interesting. That's absolutely nothing to do with the song, though. Sorry about bringing that up at all, but yeah, I think it'd be good, Dan, to. I'm sure as we get into some more old man shouting at cloud songs, there'll be a lot of chance for us to talk AI.
AI and Roy J, I hope.
Roy J. Spook.
Well, it's getting to the stage now where with these AI music generators, the only way you can tell that they're AI is that they're just too good.
Oh, I mean, the AI Oasis ones that's popped up in my feed, I can't tell the difference. They're better than most late period Oasis songs. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I know that's not saying a lot, but
yeah.
But I absolutely love it.
I've been using it a bit in my job to create like short, leave a message after the tone message.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Nice.
And like little jingles, and it's the only, like I say, like with the images, you could tell they were AI generated because it couldn't do hands and it couldn't do eyes properly. And like, with the music, like we were saying, it's the only way you can tell is it's too perfect, it's too quantized. It's the sound is exactly perfect. The human voices are now they're just too good.
Yeah, well, we'll have that new Fall record out by the end of the year.
Yeah, exactly.
And I, for one, can't wait for our new musical overlords. Let's play a little bit of the actual Leave the Capitol live, because yes, good call on that. It is a great choice, and they had to go through. I think I've read a bit of the notes on it about how they really had. There was so many versions of some of these songs, right? So really good versions, I think they nailed it. So let's have a little bit more.
Beer.
Know what that is, don't you? Yeah, nice sound. Absolutely great lyrics as well in both of these songs. But the table's covered in beer, showbiz wines, minute detail, hand on shoulder in Leicester Square. It's a vaudeville pub back room, dusty pictures of white-frocked girls and music teachers. It will not drag me down. I will leave this 10 times town. I will leave this fucking dump. I laughed at the great Good Pan. I didn't. And then, that brilliant bit at the end about Great God Pan, which, interestingly enough, to compare the two, like Dan said earlier, that Hungry for Victuals is a reference from Picture in the House, which is the one it's actually a bit dodgy, as many of his stories are, but an actually interesting little story, but about cannibalism, spoiler. While the Great God Pan is obviously about going mad because Machen created a living panopticon which embodied the metropolis as the site of mass surveillance, which observes the theatre of life that dwells within it. If we believe the essay, all eyes are on the city, Arthur Machen's ethnographic vision of London, which there's a suggestion that if Smith wasn't aware of Wagen's essay, he may have at least hit on some of the same ideas. But let's not get too highfalutin in this, shall we?
Well, they're all building their own systems and their own worlds, aren't they?
Yeah.
Smith, Machen, James, Lovecraft, Philip Dick. It's the William Blake thing about I must build my own system or be enslaved by another man's.
I must create a new regime or live by another man's. Ironic that he obviously lifted that as well. Very good. Let's take a vote. This one might be a little tighter, but which way are you going, Palemr?
I am remaining in the Roman shell and going with Leave the Capital.
I will never leave that capital either. I am also going there. Alistair, which way?
Leave the Capital.
Oh la la, I thought you might have lent Voxish, but good choice. And DB?
Funky Side is getting my vote, and he's also going for Leave the Capital.
Very good. Stuart has given Voxish 500 points, which you would think is quite a good mark out of 3, but he's given Leave the Capital 3,000 points. And so Leave the Capital wins there. So easy in the end, actually. I thought that the Voxish might have put up a bit more of a fight, but Capital is an absolute gem, and I'm happy that we will get to talk about it again.
Yes, maybe some people were put off by thinking that Voxish was somehow a reference to Bono. I don't know.
Indeed. Well, he was hanging around with the G Friday, wasn't he? Not long after that. Yeah. Thankfully, Gavin has long gone from this competition. Alrighty. Next up, Wise Old Man against the Acute. We go from the sublime to the ridiculous in this competition.
We certainly do.
Am I sharing my screen there? I'm not. Am I?
No.
What's going on here? It's 160 odd episodes in, and I've forgotten how it works.
Do I look like I have on my forehead? Do I look like I have on my face? Come playing here and rip me off. My advice to you is this: keep your hand with it.
65. My weapon jammed and I got stuck way out and all alone. I counted down my eyes, appeared there at when he came in close. I said, and he said, the boys just
whatever. I don't know. For some reason, it just reminded me of Camouflage. It's not like it at all, is it? But I do love Camouflage. Yeah. Stan Ridgway, yeah. It was what band was Stan Ridgway in? Was it Oingo Boingo? Was that where he was from?
I'm not sure.
Wall of Voodoo was his band, not Oingo Boingo. Yeah, Alistair, coming to you first. We've got these two, the Acute against Wise Old Man.
Yeah, well, Wise Old Man, they sound like they're trying their best. They got an half-decent riff, and they're flogging it to death. But it reminds me a bit of like Brick's era. The vocals, I think, are the thing that stand out for me, both the backing vocals and Mark Smith's vocals. Yeah, but I find it a little bit hard work. I think there's more interesting stuff out there that they've done. The UK, again, country northern territory. It does have a big whiff of Johnny Cash to it. The recording's brilliant now, and I like the way that you got like Mark Smith kind of like backing himself, like the hearing his vocal, and the mad sort of like string noises at the end. That was really nice, and I think it's a bit of a shame that wasn't the starting point for the song, because there could have been some like really nice, loud, quiet sort of dynamic thing going on with the structure. But yeah, I think it's in distilled mugger territory, which we covered last week.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's another indie-ish fall tune. Basically, it's a sweet chord progression. It doesn't do much. I guess if you compare it to something like Leave the Capitol and Older Lover that have a similar sort of gentle vibe in a way, it just pales in comparison. But if you just take it as as itself, as a sweet little song, it's pretty nice. Does it deserve to be in round 4? No, but does Wise Old Man? The best thing about Wise Old Man for me is the drumming. It's one of the first times that Kieran and Darren are on the track, and I think it's a really good hard-hitting drum sound. And I like that Eleni gets like a verse. It might have worked even better as a duet all the way through. Smith almost harmonizing with himself on the Wise Old Man bit, which is very unusual. It's got a nice chorus. It's a nice riff. I think if they'd have given it an earlier fall treatment, a little bit more wiry, it might have worked. But yeah, like you say, Alf, they just hammered a pretty basic idea to death. Actually, in both of these songs, but much more so in Not Very Wise Old Man. Palmer, what do you reckon to these two?
Yes, it doesn't sound very wise to me, I'm afraid. So I appreciate what you and Alistair have both said. And again, you think, is it just that I haven't listened to it enough, that I'm missing something? I feel this a lot about the Falls. You think, I might not get it now, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to, suddenly something's going to leap out at me.
Absolutely. So we shat all over Systematic Abuse for about the first 100 episodes, and last week in the wild it came on. I was like, what's this? This is pretty good. And it's like, it's fucking Systematic Abuse. It's
yeah, it's true. I mean, it's the ones I really, really dislike this particular song, and then you think, well, actually, that's saying more about you than the song, because it'd be very easy to dismiss Wise Old Man because musically I don't like it. I'm not particularly keen on Smith's vocal in this track. Eleni, on the other hand, her contribution, that's again really interesting. And like you say, the comparison with what Brixie Smith on some tracks, and you think you should let her do more.
Yeah, for sure.
So the Acute I like more. And it is, like you say, fairly generic musically, but I like the fact that it sounds like he's recorded it on somebody's phone, because his vocal is like he's holding the phone to his face.
Yeah,
the rest of the band are around him. So I think that's is that the case for the whole of that album? Because I think it's quite an underrated album.
I mean, I honestly, when it was again after the remaster, a lot of people said it kind of got tied up a bit, and it's a little better. I never particularly noticed it. No, I think in this song particularly they've gone for that vocal effect, because I think although it's rough and ready, I don't think it's as the vocals are not as raw as that on most of the tunes.
No. And I also love the line, "Have I got I need advice written on my forehead?" I think that's brilliant. So yes, I'm swinging towards the Acute at the moment, but again, listen to them a few more times. Ask me, in the future, and I could have a completely different response.
But which future?
Exactly, which future? Indeed,
that's the question, isn't it?
The future in which Eleni just sings and Smith kind of blows a kazoo.
Indeed. Stuart says, the Acute, this doesn't light me on fire. Predictable strumming, mezzes moaning, nothing else happening. I do like the line, my advice to you is this: have I got I need advice written on my forehead? A bit of circular absurdity. But I find the bit about his dick a bit blunt and cringe-inducing. I did listen all the way through, so better than the previous song, Wise Old Man, which I did not get to the end. Whereas Snur says the Acute sounds like an REM demo tape that Smith found in a bin. This or Wise Old Man will go through, and Tempo House will not. Whoever's in charge of this needs to take a long, hard look in the mirror. Is that true though? Is Tempo House really out?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh my fucking God, what's going on here? Dan, what have we got to say here?
Let's, before we rake over the coals, Wise Old Man beat out the outro of Reformation and Loop 41 / Houston from Country on the Click, and the Acute beat Cab Driver and WB off the Unutterable, which I quite like. Wise Old Man, I disagree with what some of you have said, not in terms of its quality, but in terms of, like, you were saying it's like the first double drums of this era, and they've kind of gone for it. I wish it was a bit calmer, and they kind of played into that sort of Stereolab doing a kind of motoric kind of thing, which the song nearly gets to when you listen to it a bit. In fact, when you sent me this playlist, like, I had a bit of a shudder through my spine when I saw this matchup, but I've kind of warmed to them over the week. I don't love either of them, but I think there is a good song in there that they didn't spend enough time. I think if I was going to be diplomatic. The Acute, I had not a Proustian memory, because a Proustian rush is when you sort of see your whole life, isn't it? Whereas I had a specific place memory of playing Amiga 1200, probably playing Cannon Fodder, and listening to Are You Are Missing Winner on my Technics MIDI system, and I realised I must have turned it off a lot of times before I got to the Acute, because it didn't sort of ring in any immediate bells. I'm a big fan of what you might call like the cowboy chords, country rock type songs. I'm a big Silver Jews fan. I really love the last Berman record, and this feels like, not in terms of recording, but like you could imagine Berman singing lyrics over this style.
Yeah,
I guess
absolutely.
So this is very much like in my wheelhouse. I wish the electric guitar wasn't as demo sounding. I love the kind of the quite thick bass, and I love the vocal kind of almost like speaking to a ghost of himself. And he is kind of like, if you follow his lyrics around this point, he is very kind of concerned with people's opinion of him, but also there is probably rights to be concerned or give him advice because his life's kind of wandering away from certainty, should we put it that way. And as I said last week, I find that his writing in this period, his most interesting period, it's not all brilliant, it's not always attached to brilliant music, but the variety and the approaches are really good, and I like this one. I think the Acute is a good song. When I saw it on the list, I was like, what the fuck is a deep cut from Are You Are Missing Winner doing here? But I think it's a good song.
It makes some sense. It makes some sense. But here's what makes more sense. Well, I don't like talking to myself, but someone's got to say it, hell. I mean, things have not been well, and this time I think I finally fucked myself. You see, the life I live is sickening. I spent a decade playing chicken with oblivion. Day to day, I'm neck and neck with giving in. I'm the same old wreck I've always been. Because I've been humbled by the void, much of my faith has been destroyed. I've been forced to watch my foes enjoy ceaseless feats of schadenfreude. That's what he should have been writing on this song.
But like, in Berman's Q&A on Reddit, someone pointed out to him that on the first line of his big comeback record, he rhymed with yourself, and he got really upset.
Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, that set of lyrics is
the whole album is absolute masterclass in lyric writing.
Rest in
and
peace.
I'm not even a lyrics guy, but like I just have to bow to that record. It's so good.
We lost one DB, you know.
We'll not lose the other.
No, we've still got good ones out there, but we did lose a good player from the DB team.
Dickie Bird.
Yes. On the buzz, the hill folk remove earplugs. Sorrow he's proud to repulse. Wise old man can get you out. A suggestion that is lifted from Orlando in this one, that where he's talking about the poet has a butcher's face and the butcher has a poet's face. And another song that of two tonight that might be suggested that he's based on the promoter Alan Wise. But I think maybe we're clutching at straws. Have I asked you all your opinions on this? I think. Who have I not asked? Dan, I've asked you. Palemr, I've asked you. So by a process of elimination, Alistair.
What's a computer? Yes.
I've asked Alistair. Alistair's told me what he thinks. So is it just me?
Just you, no, we're just forgetting time. Time is increasingly meaningless.
Indeed.
You know,
Stuart,
either that or we're just not very wise old men.
No. we're very old, but not very wise. Stuart says, not keen on wise old man. Other than some varied and shifting drumming, it's really pedestrian sounding to my ears. One note, I only made it about halfway through without skipping. Whereas Snur says the early B-52 sounding backing vocals can get my hopes up, but the track quickly deteriorates into a who can add the worst vocal overdub competition. Really not a fan of the rock posturing on the guitar either. Surely shite like this should be long gone by now. You would think so, Mr. Snare. You would indeed, but sadly, no. There's the ridiculous way I structured this competition means that no, Temper House is out, but the Acute is not, almost certainly. But let's take a vote. Which way are you going, DB?
The Acute.
Aye. And Palemr, which way?
I shall send Wise Old Man to the butcher and go for the Acute.
Very nice, good choice, Alistair.
The Acute.
Indeed. And I also go for the Acute, and Stuart has also gone, but only 2 points to 1, so damning it with very faint praise indeed. Yes. Well. So, what's happening here is the older lover, etc., has gone through, as has Leave the Capital and the Acute, which I feel that some justice was done there, but hard to let go of Voxish, less so the others. Palemr, thank you for your presence. Much appreciated.
Thank you, sir. Not at all. I hope I didn't confuse you all too much. There are just reads, PKD's quotes online, and you can see references to F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T songs throughout.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. I may or may not have edited some into this episode right now. Throughout. Maybe AI generated songs using PKD. These lyrics.
Well, I mean, it's entirely possible. Dan mentioned U.B.I.C. earlier, and I mean that one. Well, first of all, the Palemr Eldrich novel is the closest a book has got to being on drugs without drugs.
Right. Yeah.
Reading that book, and U.B.I.C. reads. I think U.B.I.C. reads you, because the ending. I've read it loads of times, and even though I know what the ending is, I still get infuriated by it. And it's like it's playing games with you as a reader. It's that kind. We're talking that kind of level. Which
Nice.
Smith liked doing that. He liked taking the piss and messing with people's minds.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The idea that the lyric, you might just have it wrong. You also might have the wrong interpretation. He might have changed a word after he'd assigned a meaning to it, so that you can never guess what that means. But that's all the interplay.
Exactly, and of course the old line. In order to control people, you must first control their words. That.
Oh yeah,
that's classic Dickism.
That's right. Double good indeed. And our friend Dan B on the internet has said that this sounds right up his street. It's part of why he loves Nabokov. You love some Nabokov, don't you, Dan? Is that right?
Yeah, I do, and I feel like with both Lolita and Pale like that line you've used, they read you. Your interpretation is partly predetermined by some interaction between you and the text that I'm not articulate at this time of the talk.
Good. Well, it's all fun and games, and I think Pink. What is it called? Pink Smoke. Pink. What's it called?
Pale Fire.
Pale Fire. The one where it's like it's basically a one joke stretched over several hundred pages.
Well, Pale Fire is like, yes, someone is writing a criticism to a poem.
Yes.
That he may have stolen or may have written himself, or it may be the person who wrote the poem is writing it. Or is he mad, mentally ill? Because he's writing about a plot in a fictional country. There's a lot going on.
Maybe you can do a Futures in Past at one point. So we were going to do Nabokov as a Futures in Past because of the Ben Sinister connection, but maybe we'll but next week we will be doing Marky Smith's solo semi-final. Size in 2 weeks' time. Next week
I know.
is Funky Size not coming on, although we have had him on, but we'll just be talking about his brilliant book. Palemr, hopefully we can get you one more time before we wrap this up in several decades. And DB and Alistair, take care. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks very much. See ya.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.